Hey there, it's Jeff with Terrain 4x4 Adventures coming back to you with kind of a how-to video on how to operate all the functions on a Jayco Terrain or an Entegra Launch. So I'm going to take you through a step-by-step guide. I'm hoping this won't be a long video, but I think it might be because there's a lot to cover. These vans are a little bit complex, and I'm going to try and make it a little bit easier for you. If you're new to this van or perhaps renting this van, this will be kind of a walkthrough introduction of all the basic functions of the van. Now, I should note that I've had my van for almost 2 years and still don't quite know it inside and out. I know most everything, probably 95%, and I'm going to try and cover it here. But if I leave something out, put a note in the comments for me, and I'll update the video if it's something important. I also want to note that having it this long, I have added a bunch of different upgrades to it, so you may see things on this van that aren't on the van that you have. So just kind of disregard that, but the functionality, the main components are going to all be the same. Now, I should note that this is a 2022 Jayco Terrain. They did make some upgrades to the 23 models, such as there's a water fill on the outside of the van. This van does not have that. And an electrical outlet down here that's not present on this van. So just a couple of minor changes, but otherwise I think it's pretty similar. All right, one more disclaimer. I have been traveling for about 3 weeks in this van. It is pretty filthy dirty. I've been on the road for a bit, so authentic. This is going to be a very authentic video. Okay, so we're right behind the back seats here in the van, and we're going to start off with what's called the Firefly screen. And this has all of your, or much of your basic controls on it. So you've got an on-off switch for the lights, and this is a master on-off. So you can turn them all on at the same time. You've got your interior lights over here, exterior lights on this side. And then you can also switch them on individually if you want. And they're all dimmable. So if you hold your finger down on the button, they will cycle down and then back up, and just leave them to where you want it. Okay, so pretty simple on the lights. And then we go down to the AC, and on the AC you can just set the temperature to where you want it and put it on auto. When this is highlighted, that means that the AC is on, and it's not tripping on right now because I don't want the noise of it. I've got it set at 90 degrees. But if you click on cool and have it down here on auto, then it'll cycle on at whatever temperature that you have it set on. You've also got the ability to just have the fan on low and on high. I'm not going to hit those because it gets a little loud, but that's how you operate the AC. And you want to be careful about running the AC too much if you're stationary, because it does take a lot of the battery power. I haven't tested it, but I've been told you can get up to anywhere from like 6 to 10 hours of use of the AC before running the battery down. The next button is going to be for your awning, to extend and retract the awning. Now, when you extend the awning, I can tell you that this awning, we all have had some challenges with it. You may need to give it a bit of a love tap to get it to extend. So hit the extend button, you'll hear the motor going, and then just kind of tap it or slap it a bit to have it come out if it gets stuck. Retracting it, coming back in usually isn't a problem. I'm going to show you in just a minute. There's another, probably more convenient location of where you can extend and retract the awning as well. And then down here is a bunch of settings. You really don't need to go into that unless you're changing the clock or doing some other things. So again, basic settings back up here. Now, let's also talk about, we've got your water pump to turn it on and off. Again, when it's highlighted, it's on, ghosted, it's off. And that'll just simply allow you to run fresh water out of to flush the toilet, to run the shower, or have water out of the sink. I keep mine turned off unless I'm using it. No need to have water pressure sitting in there if not needing and putting additional strain on it. So I keep mine off. And then you've also got a gray water tank heater if you're in a cold environment and you want to keep that gray water tank from freezing, you can turn this guy on. And then the battery. So the battery system on these guys is rather complex, but this is showing you what the state of charge is. So right now I'm at 88% on the house battery. So I've got a good charge. This would probably last me 2 or 3 days if I'm not moving. Once you start moving the van, the secondary alternator will begin charging the battery and we'll bring this back up to 100% pretty quickly. I've been sitting here for a bit running the AC, which is why I'm down to 88%. And then you've got the chassis battery here just showing you where we're at with that. You can also hit this Renogy battery button to get a little bit more data on the screen. And in this case, we can see what the voltage is. 54.4 would be fully charged. You can also see what the battery temperature is, and then also what the current drain is here. Or you can see if it's charging. Right now it's showing it's discharging because I'm sitting here and I've got the refrigerator going, so that's why we've got -2 amps. If you're running the vehicle or if you're plugged into shore power, then you'll see a positive number there. So, and right down here it's showing that there's no faults, which is always good. Going back into the settings, all right, and then one other thing I wanted to mention. So you've got a thermostat here, which is wildly inaccurate. So I wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to it other than the fact that the AC is going to be utilizing this temperature. I would say right now it's probably closer to 72 degrees in here. I think where they have the sensor located in this van, it always shows a temperature that's, at least in my case, that's much higher than what reality is. Okay, moving over to the right, we've got the furnace controls here, and it does have a clock, which I didn't set, so it's not accurate, but if I touch that button, I'll awaken the thermostat, and there you go, it's showing 70 degrees. I think that's probably a bit more accurate. So there are really going to be each 4 corners of the thermostat, you've got buttons, and so the lower left is going to be to turn the furnace on using diesel fuel to power it. Okay, and that's going to be your most common method of utilizing this furnace. And I don't know if you can hear the noise, but it's starting to fire up. And then you can either use the plus or minus buttons down here at the bottom, or scroll with your finger to set where you want that temperature to be. I like 68. So we set it there. That's 69, close enough. So we set it there, and then your furnace will work to get you up to that temperature. Once it gets to that temperature, it will shut itself off. Now, there are situations where you're going to want to have the furnace running and heating the water, but you don't want the fans blowing in the van. And in that case, you would hit this button. And so that'll have the furnace going, but only heating your water. The fans aren't going to be blowing hot air into the van. So you might be in a situation like, let's say right now, where it's 70, 72 degrees out here. I don't need any heat, but I want to take a shower. You'd want to set that up. Speaking of taking a shower, it's going to take about 10 minutes to get the water nice and hot before you want to jump in. All right, now we've got this other button here to the right. That is going to switch on powering the furnace using electricity. Now, if you do that and you're not connected to shore power, you are going to drain this battery very quickly. So I do not recommend doing that at all unless you're plugged into shore power. So let me turn this guy off so I don't heat this guy up. All right, and then up in the upper right hand corner, that's just to make some setting changes. All right, then the next button here is your battery switch, your self reset switch. I am not going to talk about that. Don't touch that button. That's only if you need to do a battery reset. And again, if you're new to this van, I will leave a link in the description of where you can get a copy of the manual to run the battery. There's also a good video out there. It's a long, boring video, but you'll want to refer to that to get more battery detailed information. All right, now this button over here is our inverter button, and you can see it's got a green light going right now. That means the inverter is turned on. You need to have the inverter turned on for two things. If you want to run the 110 outlets in the van, you've got to have the inverter on. Or if you're connected to shore power and you want to charge the battery, the inverter has to be turned on. If you're not doing either of those and you want to preserve your battery life, just hit the button and turn it off. So during the day, when I'm not, powering anything, charging, a cell phone or something like that, or, doing other things that would require electricity, such as running the inductive cooktop or what have you, I just keep this thing off, again, to preserve battery life. Because having the inverter just turned on, even though you might not be pulling electricity, will require some power. It will drain the battery slowly, not real fast, but it will drain it. So leave it off unless you need it. So to turn it back on, I don't know if this is just kind of a funky thing with me, but for mine, I need to turn it on once, depress it, and you can tell that the button is off because it's popping out just a tad, and then do it a second time. Again, I don't know if that's just a weird quirk with my van, but in a second that green light will turn on and my inverter will come back on. Come on, don't fail me. There we go. All right, so as we step into the van, you'll see a couple of switches at the floor. This is your main power switch. You're going to want to just leave that on all the time. With this turned on, things like your refrigerator will be powered up and be running, but just leave that switch on all the time. The only time you'd really want to turn that off is if you're going to be shutting the coach down for a while, maybe storing it. Otherwise, I just leave that on all the time. Here is your awning in and out button, and this is the one that, like I said, I find more convenient, that I use more often down here. So in, out for your awning. Another word on this main power switch: if something is kind of going odd with the van, it's also kind of your Control Alt Delete button. I've had some weird situations happen where, like for instance, the air conditioner, for whatever reason, the air conditioner wouldn't stop even though I turned it off. I can just do the main power off, let it sit for a second, turn it back on, and everything kind of resets. Okay, so coming back here to the driver's side of the van in the back, we've got your main power connection for when you're connecting to shore power. When you connect to shore power, this light here will turn blue. That'll let you know that you've got power coming into the van. This is a 30 amp connection. And just to make sure that you're charging, again, that inverter needs to be turned on. And if you look at that Firefly screen, click on that Renogy battery button, you'll be able to see that it is charging, not discharging, when you've got this connected. So you may want to charge your battery, but you're not sitting in an RV park. You might be at home and you want to plug into a home outlet that's maybe 15 or 20 amps. You can do that, but you do have to change the inverter settings, and that's a bit complicated. I'll leave a link in the description on how to do it. It's not impossible, but it's a little bit more lengthy than what I have time here for in this video. So if you want to see how to change and step down from 30 amp charging to maybe 20 amps or 15 amps, go to the description in this video and I'll put a link there for how you would change those settings. All right, so now that I'm out on the outside of the van, I'm going to show you this lovely cassette toilet. Really not that bad to dispose of your waste. These two buttons press in. This is a locking button. I just keep mine unlocked since I'm working with just one hand. I've got it unlocked, and look at that. I've got my deodorizers in here. This brand is, I found, to be very effective to keeping those odors down. And to get the cassette toilet out, you just pull on this lever down here and slide it right out. This thing will come out. This handle will flip up. It's got wheels on it. If you're at a rest stop and you got to wheel it into the restroom, you can easily do that. All right, so you're in the restroom, you're ready to dump this. You're gonna turn this guy out, take the cap off, hold it with one hand here, one hand on the bottom on the other side, and then there's this release button that you're gonna push that'll allow air into the cassette toilet so it can properly drain. Plug your nose while you're doing that. It's gonna smell like a porta potty, but again, done in about 20 seconds, not a big deal. A lot easier than I expected. And then when you're done, just slide her back in. Now, if you run into a situation where you're pushing this lever down and it will not come out, it's stuck. The reason why it's stuck is because you've got the toilet little flange, little valve open. So that needs to be closed. And let me show you how to work the toilet. So let's talk about the toilet. So as I mentioned, right now we can see that it is closed. And down here at the bottom, there's this little lever where you'll open it. So if it's in that open position, you will not be able to slide the cassette out. So to flush the toilet, I always recommend, again, you're gonna wanna open that, close the lid so you don't get splashed, and then with the pump on, water pump on, you're gonna press this button. Now I'm pressing it and I don't hear anything. That's because the water pump is turned off. All right, water pump is turned back on and you can hear it, okay? So just a couple of presses with that. You want to conserve water just enough to get that clean. There is an indicator down here when this thing starts to get full that will start to turn kind of a reddish color. And also the toilet swivels, so you can have it in this position or this position. Turn it this way to have a little bit more room in the shower. So let's talk about the shower real quick. Up top, we've got a fan. You've got to press this guy up, push this button. It's loud and obnoxious, but at least it'll get some air going out. And then you've got this light here with a push button. This light, by the way, is not controlled by the Firefly screen. Your toilet paper is in here. You want to make sure that's closed, obviously, when you're taking a shower. Keep it dry. Spare toilet paper in this little compartment. Be careful with this little guy. Don't force it, it'll pop off. And then let's talk about the shower. This fan is equipped with what's called a shower miser, and the shower miser is designed to circulate the water before you take a shower so that it's warm, all the pipes are warm, so when you turn it on, you're going to get hot water right away. So unfortunately, it's not labeled. The only way to tell whether the shower miser's on, from my experience, is turning the shower on, okay? Again, the water pump is on right now. You also have another push button right here. That's why water is not coming out. And then if you turn this knob and just listen, you'll hear when the shower miser gets activated. All right, so on that setting, and in this case, the logo, I guess, is pointed in that direction, at least on mine. That's the shower miser going. You'd want to keep that on for, gosh, at least about 5 minutes. This little disc will become a little bit murky, slightly whitish in color, telling you that things have heated up. And then when you're ready to take the shower, we can go to the next setting. And I believe that's completely off. Let's test it. Yep, that's off with that button up top. Go to the next setting, and now we're on. All right, and last thing for the shower is there is a little drawstring here that you can run across and hang some wet clothes. All right, so next up we're gonna talk about the Max Air fan. This thing is actually pretty awesome. Simple on and off button will get it going. You can adjust the speeds here, or you can set it to, if you hold this button, it'll automatically set it to turn on, I believe it's 78 degrees. I never use that. I always leave it on the low setting at night. In particular, what you're gonna wanna do in this fan at nighttime is crack a window just a little bit to let air circulate, and always have this fan going. It'll keep things nice and fresh in here. All right, so now moving up into the cabinet above the rear seats, and we've got a couple of things up here. really one thing that you'll need to pay attention to, and that is just this button here. This is to raise and lower the bed. More than likely you'll see a key in this slot here. You'll need to make sure that that key is turned to the on position, and then you just simply hit this button to lower the bed and then back up. Now make sure before you lower the bed that you don't have anything in its way down below. You will want to make sure that the bed is lowered all the way. I've got a bunch of crap down there, as you can see. You'll want to have it lowered all the way. You don't want to sleep in the bed or climb in the bed when it's halfway up. All right, so these two controllers here, this controller is simply for the solar panel that's charging the chassis battery. Don't touch it. No need to make any adjustments or mess with this at all unless you've got a problem. And then over here, this is what's called the Sam Coon screen. You got to touch it to wake it up. And this will give you detailed information of the condition of the battery. It is going to be more accurate than the Firefly screen. There's no buttons to press here other than waking it up. And if you need to call attack and find out what's going on, if you've got some faults, they'll show up here. But really, probably no need to mess with this screen at all unless you're having some issues. All right, so let's talk about the location of the 110 power outlets. You've got one up above the cabinet. You've got one down there if it's a 2023 or newer. Mine doesn't have it there. And then you'll have one buried under the seat back there. And while I'm showing you that, just in front of it is the furnace vent. There's a couple of furnace vents, that's one of them. So back there is one of the outlets, and inconveniently located above that is the USB outlet. These vans are severely lacking in USB outlets, but there it is. I think that's the one and only one. While I'm over here, got your fuse panel right here. Again, this is under the jumper seat in the back. And then you've got circuit breakers here if you're having power issues. Another outlet, I'm not going to be able to show it because again, I got some stuff back here, is right around this corner. There's one down there. I've got a vacuum plugged into it right now. It's a little light. And then also buried down there is the other furnace. More power outlets. There's going to be one up along this wall. When the bed's down, it'll be up here. It's one that we use quite frequently. And then there's two more power outlets that I'll show you. All right, and while I'm out here, let me just show you this table. This is a slightly different version. This is an upgraded version of the factory table, but it's very similar. Over on this side, you can disconnect that cable, raise it and lower it if you're on an uneven surface to level out your table. That's what that's for. And then we've got another power outlet back here underneath this cover. And then going back into the garage area of the van, we've got one down here. All right, so now that I'm back in the back area of the van, let's talk about what's called the Nautilus system. This is to control the water in the van. So up top, we've got your outdoor shower that I've got the hose plugged in currently. We've got an on-off switch for your water pump. You can turn it off here if you'd like. And then we've got these various levers for different configurations. So starting up here, we've got dry camping. That's where I'm set up right now. So you just follow these diagrams and put these levers in the correct position. Power fill is when you're going to be filling up your fresh water tank. Here's your tank input. This cap comes off, screw on a hose there. And then if you want to be just connected directly to city power, the newer models, the 2023s, have one of these connections on the outside of the van. This van does not. So if I was at an RV park and I wanted to be connected full-time to water, which I'm not sure I'd want to do that because I just fill up the tank and then use it and then refill it when it's empty. But this is how you would configure the settings if you're connected full-time to city power like at an RV park. This is settings for when you want to winterize the van. We're not going to go into that. And then if you had to siphon fill, and this would be like you got a bucket or something that you're taking water out of a bucket. In my case, I do use this quite frequently because underneath the van I've got a 28-gallon fresh water tank for additional water. So that's a setting to be able to siphon water up into the van. Now let's talk about emptying the gray water tank. So once that's full, we're going to come out to the side of the van here, counterclockwise take this cap off, and then simply pull this lever out. Some of the vans have slightly different configurations, but it's all going to be pretty straightforward. Again, counterclockwise here, connect your hose. I didn't mention that, I don't think. Connect the hose, put it down into the dump station, and you're good to go. All right, so moving back into the van, I realized I forgot to, hi Bella, I forgot to tell you how to tell if your water tank is full. So these are your gauges. You've got your freshwater tank here, your gray water tank here, and just a word of caution, these gauges are highly inaccurate. So you cannot depend on them. They are measured in thirds. So when you fill up the freshwater tank, it'll be showing at 100%. Then if you're anything like me, a minute later, haven't used any water and it drops down to 67%, and then 33%, and then ultimately down to 0. Similar to the gray water tank, I think it's a bit more accurate than my freshwater gauge. It will turn red when you're getting close to 100% full. Stepping into the front of the van, I'm going to show you some of the other cool features. This button here is for the onboard air compressor. To activate it, you're going to hit this button to turn it on, and it's already charged up because I had it on earlier, but you'll hear that motor run probably for about 30 seconds while that air compressor fills up the cylinders. And then this button is for the big light bar that's up on the roof rack up top. So let's move up and talk more about the onboard air. Underneath the hood there is a connection point. That is a compressor right there. There is a connection point to connect your air hose back towards the back. Unfortunately, Jayco puts it in a very inconvenient location. I've removed mine and swapped it out with this port here, but in a stock van it's going to be back there. And then moving on to the rear of the van, there is also a rear chuck. Yours will look different than this, but down here is where you'll see the rear air chuck. In my case, I've got a 28-gallon water tank back there. That's the port on the left for that. And then my air compressor is the one on the right. But in a factory location, there'll be a tab here for that rear air chuck. Moving on to the four-wheel drive system. So to put the van into four-wheel drive, you're first going to go into neutral, and then reach down here to find the four-wheel drive switch, engage it, and it turns on. Often it'll flash a bit. You may need to go put it in drive and just roll very slowly, maybe a foot, half a foot, to get it to engage. Same process for disengaging it. Van goes back into neutral, hit that button. Again, you may need to roll forward a bit, maybe try rolling in reverse a bit to get it to disengage. To the right, we've got the low range button, and in a very similar manner, we're going to put the van into neutral. I'm still in neutral, and I'm going to hit that switch, and we're in low range. A light will come on briefly at the bottom of the dash, then go out, and then you'll see this low range indicator on the dash. Quick note of caution, the transfer case for the four-wheel drive system is very small, contains a very small amount of fluid, so you want to make sure that you don't drive in low range at high speeds, otherwise you'll cook the transfer case. So the low range should only be used if you're going up some really steep terrain, over rough terrain, boulders, rocks, that kind of stuff, maybe in some deep sand or snow. but always at slow speeds. Take it out of low range. Again, just the same process. We're going to put the van back into neutral, and then hit that button again. That light did not go off, so I'm going to try that again. There we go. Now we're out. So just need to make sure that that light is out and that we are out of the low range. So I'm going to turn the four-wheel drive system off, get us out of four-wheel drive. I'm in neutral, and there we go. You probably won't have that kind of luck. My four-wheel drive system, for some reason, is just working flawlessly. Oftentimes you'll see that button flash a bit, then you just got to play around with it very slowly. Wheels turning straight. You don't want to have the wheels turned at all. Just in a straight position, straight line going, rolling very slowly forward and backwards to get that to disengage or to engage when you put it into four-wheel drive. Let's talk about the windows. So Jayco's got 3 different windows in, 2 in the front area of the van and 1 in the bed area. So we've got these nice shades. This is a screen here. This one comes down all the way. It does get caught a bit along the way. Got to be gentle with these things. They're not the best quality. And then if you want privacy, pull that guy down. This window next to the jumper seats in the back is a power window. These unfortunately are notorious for not working properly. Mine is not working properly, so I'm not going to demonstrate how to open it. Afraid I might not be able to get it closed again. Still working on a warranty repair for that one. And then coming over to this side, I've got a window covering over this window, but this is fashioned in a very similar manner as the other window, other than it's manual. You just have this handle here to pull it open, and it'll pop back in and slide, and a screen will come with it. Engage it just with that lever right there. And then in the back, let me turn some light on here. For a bedroom window, the same shades here. And this guy is just a little pop-out window. You can adjust how far you want it out, tighten this knob to keep it there. Or you can actually lock it in a very slight open position to allow some ventilation. This position, quite frankly, is where I keep it at night. You get a nice amount of air breezing through here with that max air fan open. And while I'm back here, let's talk about these lights. One push of the button softly and you've got a nice soft blue light, good for reading or just some soft light at night. Push it and hold it and you've got the regular light going. And then over on this side, we've got another switch down here. Why they put this here, I don't know. This is down by my feet when I sleep. And you've got on-off buttons. I have pressed this a bunch of times, just rolling over and bumping it. And what's crazy is there's an awning in and out down here. I don't know why you'd want to extend your awning while you're laying in bed, but so be it. That's another switch back here. Main power on, bed lighting, a couple other lights here as well. And continuing on with the lights, I did forget to mention there is under counter light switches here as well. One on this side and one under here as well. And for the sink, oops, let me turn the water pump on. So the sink does not drain on its own. It'll just fill up. And you've got a macerator switch up here just to the right of the light switch that will help drain the sink. Well, hi there, Bella. She's such a cutie. All right, so moving on. Oops, get the fly, Bella. All right, so moving on to some other features. This lever underneath the passenger seat and the driver's seat are to swivel the seats. So you can swivel these seats all the way around, But to do that, you're going to want to adjust the seat back forward by pressing this lever forward. To give you some additional clearance, you might also need to scoot it, the whole seat itself, forward as well, to be able to give you the proper clearance to swivel the seat and to be able to utilize the interior of the van better. So the last thing I want to talk about is the window covers. These vans come with privacy and insulated window covers. I don't have them mounted yet, but they just slip into place up here. Pretty self-explanatory on how they go into the up into the front windshield. But the problem with the factory window coverings that come with the Jayco Terrain and the Entegra Launch is that they come with very weak magnets, and so they don't stay in place very well. So what a lot of people have done is, unfortunately, kind of put it in place, then simply close the door on them and just kind of mash them in there. So as long as it's not raining, you should be fine. That's kind of a workaround for the window coverings that come with the van. Otherwise, get some better ones. I have the Van Essential ones. I'll leave a link in the description of this video of where you can find a review on those. They are awesome. I love them. They stay in place, unlike the factory ones that come with the van. And for adding fuel, we're right at the driver's side door. Please, please, please. Make sure you only put diesel in these guys. Use caution, only diesel. And then for the diesel exhaust fluid, the DEF, goes right up here. This stuff is kind of nasty. You want to not get it on the paint, so be very careful when filling up your DEF fluid. I always put a little towel around here, something to catch anything, any overflow. If you do get it on the paint, just make sure that you clean it off right away. Before driving away, make sure all of your latches are locked. Check them all out and make sure that these shower door latches are also locked. We do a little thing saying, hey, did you button down all the hatches? So make sure all these are secured, otherwise things are gonna be flying all over the place and your food's gonna end up on the ground. And while I'm at that, let me just show you a couple of other cool features of this Jayco Terrain and Entegra Launch. Both vans, by the way, are exactly the same, just different badging on them. But this cool little table adds for some space. Great for when I'm getting ready in the morning, brush my teeth, making my coffee, just some extra counter space. Hit those little red levers to put it back. And then on this side of the van, we've got this cool pull out. Pull it out, lift it up, and now it just unites with the countertop here to give you much more space, and tucks back away. So very cool. Maisie and Bella are not impressed. They're kind of bored, but that's the dog's life for you. Wow, that was a lot. I kind of tried to warn you at the beginning of this video that this was going to be a long one, and I tried to go through things quickly for you. But yeah, there's a lot to cover, and I'm sure I may have missed a thing or two. If so, please leave a comment, and I'd be happy to maybe include that in a future video. And certainly if you have any questions, I'm here for you. I will answer them to the best of my abilities. Leave your questions in the comments as well. And I would really appreciate it if you would consider liking this video if you got something out of it, and subscribe to our channel. So we just surpassed 1,000 subscribers, which is kind of cool. We're continuing to grow this channel, so we'd love to have you as a subscriber as well. So that's a wrap. I'm back on the road, making my way up to Utah, and I hope to see you out on the trail sometime soon. Take care, everybody.